Hey everyone, in this video section we are going to start to work on the kind of the keyboard area, where those keys will be placed. So primarily this piece right here, and then we'll also build up our pieces along the sides, and then also this piece right along here. So really kind of all the items that surround that keyboard, the keys themselves. And if we have time in this video, we will also get working on those keys to complement our keyboard base. So what I want to do here is just kind of starting out, I want to think about some primitive shapes that can give me the result I'm looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and the first shape I want to create is that base area. So I'm going to go to my object mode, and we'll go to add mesh and cube. So for the cube, if I go to my front view here, I'm going to stretch this just a hair longer than the base itself. I want to move it up. So right now I do have my snaps on, so I'm going to disable that with X as a shortcut. And I want to make this a tad longer, so maybe something like that. And what I'm doing here is I'm just kind of looking at my reference. I see if I go to my top view, it should go about as far out as the tops of the legs there, or the base. That looks pretty good actually, that length there. So really that's kind of the everything I need for that particular piece. Now, one thing that you may want to do, when we're working here, you'll see that we have all the keys on top of, all of our keys will be going right on top of here, which, might be a waste of texture space. So just be considering when you're modeling these out, do you want the mesh and the texture to be wasted on dead space that's not going to be seen? So in that case, what I might do here is, perhaps I'm going to take this piece here. I might want to just bevel, or sorry, not bevel, but use my loop cut. So I'm going to hit Alt C. Otherwise, you can go to your loop cut tool over here. And I'm just going to cut something there. And then I want to just add in a little bit of a, 2 divisions. I'm going to scale these apart like that, and then I might want to come in and do one more loop cut. So Alt C and just bring this out here. Now we can modify this also, but oops, I'm going to do that part. Okay, so now I want to just delete this section right here. So since I don't want all that section to be necessarily seen, I would like to save that as much as I can. So I'm going to just delete that. And if I were to isolate this to local mode, so I can right click and actually I can go to view, local view. Otherwise I usually use Shift I can then see. So I'm going to I won't ever be able to see that back area. So if I hit Shift I one more time, I can see these two faces here, and I'll be able to see these faces down here. So therefore I need to keep those. So I'm going to just delete this face here since I can't see it. Hit delete, hit go face. And then I want to also clean up this topology here. So I'm actually going to remove all of this. I can actually select these edges here. I'm going to move all these edges and just hit Control and Backspace, and that'll clean them up. And then here we have, so now we have a big ingon. So I'm going to actually select these here. I want to merge vertices at last, like so. And I can actually merge these here as well. So what it's going to do is it's going to give me that clean polygon, or clean, clean up the ingons I have here, while also reducing my poly count. So select the 3 and make sure I select the one I want to merge to last. Then I go to right click and go merge vertices at last. Now I do have one more ingon here to clean up, so I'm just going to go hit K for my knife tool. And then I'm just going to select there, and I need to do the same thing for this other side where I will select across. And so now I have all those n-gons cleaned up. I reduced what could have been up to maybe 15 or maybe like 20 faces. I reduced it now to let's see, to 11 faces. So that's not too bad. And also the reason I did it too is now we have all this extra space to use when it comes to texturing. So now I have that done. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just looking at what's next. I see these blocks here, so this is a fairly easy piece to model. I'm gonna go into my object mode, add mesh cube, and I'm going to just work on one, and I'll worry about the other one a little later. So for my front view, I want to position this. I'm looking at my reference on my opposite screen right now. So I want this maybe about that. I want it to be a little bit thicker, and I want to push this out quite a bit. So maybe it's even still a little too thick for my preference. So let's go ahead and move this in a bit. So one more thing I can do is I can go my viewport overlays, and while I'm in viewport overlays, I can adjust the statistics. So this will tell me how many triangles, faces and triangles I'm using right now. But also I can toggle on wireframe. Sometimes working especially in low poly, being able to see that wireframe really does help quite a bit. So this looks pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and just create just the one, and then I want to now create, if you look over here, you see there's another piece right there. So I want this next block. I'm just actually take this block here, hit Control D to duplicate. Otherwise, you can select here and then right click in your scene collections and go to duplicate. Or let's see if there's a duplicate option. Maybe not. Object, duplicate, object. And once you duplicate it, it will follow your cursor. So if you just right click, it'll go back to where it belongs, or go back to the original space. And then I want to scale this down just a little bit more and bring it back in. And actually I want this to line up with about this vertice right, or this edge right here. So I'm going to toggle on my snap, make sure it's set to vertex. And I'm going to now also, I want to be closest, not center. So now I can toggle it so it'll be flush with that. And I want it to be also be flush with this area here. And then we'll turn that off by hitting X. Otherwise you can go turn it off manually. I'm just gonna move this down, and let's see, so if I now go underneath it, there you go. I can now move it up, so it's about there is pretty good. So what you saw there, I went to X-ray mode, so X-ray mode is Alt X. Otherwise you can also go to your view, and there should be I'm trying to see what we called. Oh, actually, it'll be up here. Toggle X-ray is up in the right-hand corner. That just helps you see things. So, for example, if I want to select all of this, I can go to Faces and drag across, and now it'll only select what I can see. But if I have X-ray mode on, I can now select everything. I toggle off, and now you can see it. So that's just Alt X is toggle on and off. Otherwise, if you don't want to use a shortcut, it's up in the right hand corner, and just that little X-ray, two transparent squares looking at each other. Okay, so now I have that done. I'm gonna go back to my object mode, which is the forward key, and I know that I want to do some cleanup here. So I want to take these two pieces, just one at a time. I'll go ahead and hit Control or Shift I to isolate this one, and the viewer won't be able to see either one of these faces. So I'm gonna go ahead and delete both of those. And I'll hit Shift I to exit local mode, and then we'll do the same thing here. I know they won't be able to see the bottom or the back or even this inside face, so I'm going to hit Shift I, and I want to remove, or with my 3 key, I'm going to select these 3 faces and delete and faces. So now I just have these to worry about. So again, this technique here is to save face count. As you can see there, if you can't see it, then you probably shouldn't have it. Let me see if I can, there you go. If you can't see it, then you probably don't really need to be wasting those resources, especially in a low poly budget. Okay, so now we have these 2 items. What I want to do now is I'm going to actually mirror these over to the opposite side. So before I even do that, I want to create a new object. So I'm in my object mode, which is the 4 key, and just select in this gray area so I don't have anything selected. Hit add, and we'll go for empty. And in this case, I'm just going to say plane axis. And I'm just going to call this center. So if you look at my scene collection on the right hand side, I just can double click the empty and call it center. And now this is set to 0, 0, 0. And now I can actually, and I'm going to go ahead and select center. And if you were to click on this restrictions toggle up here, I can turn on my clickable. And I might want to hit the eyeball and the clickable. So the center, it's really just a location that I can then later on use whenever I want to reference the middle of the scene. In this case, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select this box. I'm going to add modifier and hit mirror. And now where it says mirror object, I'm going to mirror at the center. So that object it just made. I will do the same thing here. Mirror, and then I'm going to mirror at the center as well. And so now I have those. So if I were to ever make one change to one, it'll make it to the other one as well, which is pretty nifty. So next, I'm looking at, I need to make this block across the back. And so what I'm going to do here is, again, use my handy dandy cube. So add mesh cube. I'm going to move this up. This block should be somewhere between this opening right here. So I'm going to scale this out nice and far. And I'm just going to squash it down until it's about the middle there. And then we'll start to scale it so it's a little bit thinner. Looks pretty good. Now I'll go and push it back into the mesh. Might scale it down a little more. And I think that we're pretty good there. So I could squash down a little bit and move it up because all the keys will be in the way of blocking, you know, the back there. So now with this being done, all I really need is these two faces that are actually be seen. Everything else will be not seen. So hit Shift I to enter local view. And I'm just going to select the two faces I want to keep and hit Control I to inverse it. Otherwise, you can go to Select, Invert. And now I'm just going to hit Delete and Faces. And now those are the only two faces. Hit Shift I to exit local mode. And so now this looks pretty good there. Okay. So the next part I'm going to be working on here, we aren't going to work out the keys quite yet. That's a little bit more of a, that's a little longer time that we have for this video. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to work on these legs. And so I'm going to go into Add Mesh Cube. And I want to then just go my front view. I'm going to move this over here, move it up a bit, and I want to scale it down and scale it a little taller and scale it down maybe a little more. I think that is pretty good. Maybe move it in. And so now what I want to do is move it. I'm going to go my left view. I want to move this forward. And to top it off, I'm going to hit the Shift I for local view. I want to select this bottom face. I want to make this a little bit larger, something like that. And hit Shift I again. And I might want to now move with that bottom face selected. I'll move it a little bit. And if I go by front view, I want to move it probably about this far because I would like for this edge to be nice and squared. Hit Shift I one more time. Oops. I must hit a fancy shortcut. I did not realize I hit, but okay. So then let me go in my orientation back. There you go. So now I'm going to go to my snaps tool. I just want this vertex selecting this edge. I want to snap to this vertex so this is actually straight. So Shift I. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Okay. So I'm pretty happy with how it looks. I might want to move it forward just a little bit more. That I'm pretty happy with that. And then I'm going to select this and I want to eliminate any faces I will not be able to see. So hitting Shift I to isolate this. I'm going to just select those two faces I can't see, delete those, and then Shift I to exit that local view. So, and next step will be to mirror this over, and I want to mirror at the center. So now we have this view here. I want to be sure to save this. Please do save often, as I just did. And so in this video, we created the oops, let me go ahead and get a good angle of this. Where's my reference? There it is. Okay. Yes, in this video we create our our section right along here. So also we talked about how we can eliminate any faces that won't be used. So really these faces we're able to, the reason we eliminate these faces are really two reasons. One, to save texture space. Texture space, especially in a low poly asset game, is valuable, but also we are in addition to saving texture space and using where it's actually seen, we're also eliminating polygons and triangles that won't be seen, since they are actually supporting kind of rule of thumb. If it doesn't actually support the silhouette of the game model, or doesn't serve a purpose, then you probably should want to get rid of it, since that is resources not being used. No point in being wasteful for those resources. So in the next video, we are going to continue on with this. We'll start to model out the keys. So we're going to model the keys, and then we'll get into some of the secondary assets, such as the little border here, but then also this inset, and then these frames. And if we have time, we'll also move forward or move to the back of our piano and also grab some of these corner pieces as well. So that will be in the next video.